Hey, buddy. Thanks for coming over today.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Lovely new place you got here.
I love it. I can't get enough. You know what, though? There is a coffee shop right outside my door, and every day I think, oh, I'll run downstairs and get myself like a nice latte. And even though it's so conveniently close, there's always the longest line of basically just affluent white people who love to wait in lines. Like everyone else in the world has to wait in lines. And yet, these people, these bougie people, love waiting in line. Like they're horny to wait 15 minutes for a latte at a bespoke barber shop.
They won't go if there isn't a line to wait in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So every day, if I need to go get myself breakfast or something in between Zoom classes, I will go out my door and walk past all of these people walking their specialty dogs and their bespoke children. And then I will run to the bodega 2 blocks away, get myself the Greek coffee cup and like a bacon, egg, and cheese. And by the time it takes me to get back, the same people are still waiting in that line.
And they haven't budged.
They haven't budged.
The people are still making the latte that they were making when you walked by initially.
Exactly. Because it's one at a time, and it's just maddening. I'm like, does no one have work here? What is up with you?
And they love to make it as complex as possible.
That's true. Well, every once in a while I think I'll get myself a turmeric latte here or like a golden milk latte. But those are pipe dreams. I'm not going to throw the money down. I'm curious about it, but I never do it.
Yeah, and you don't want to wait like 35 minutes.
I don't want to wait. I'm all about go. In New York City, you should never wait for anything because there are places that provide the exact same service right next door.
Right away, too.
Yeah, dude. Like, okay, so here, I think since the world's opened up and we're all vaccinated, we're being invited to go back to bars. And yeah, I understand like patronizing small businesses, and I understand like throwing money at bartenders. But dude, I went to a bar like for the first time about 3 nights ago, and the bartenders were incapable of handling the crush of people because there's like twice the capacity now. There's everyone outside in the new like outdoor seating, plus everybody inside. So I'm like sitting there waiting at the bar for, and I put my timer on because I was with a date. So I'm like thinking about her outside, and I want to be considerate. I'm looking at, and I am that type A person that puts the timer on. And it took them 15 minutes to get to me. Then I'm like 2 Jamesons, and they pour out, they measure. I watch them measure the stingiest 2 shots and pour them into the glass with the ice. And the guy's like, that'll be $20.
That's the most hurtful. Is when they do the like measuring and it costs that much because you're like, what is this, Salt Lake City, Utah? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, dude. And like, you literally saw me wait here the entire time, considerately, quietly, and then you were just gonna just raw, no lube. Here's your 1 shot with your 5 chips of ice. And it's $20, and I was like, "Cool, that's the last $20 this bar is ever making from me." Because I'm gonna go back to my like my almost like island of Cuba dating lifestyle, which was just taking a bottle of rum. Because during the whole pandemic, if I went on a date, I would just take a bottle of rum in my book bag, a Coca-Cola liter, and like 2 Dixie cups, and just walk around the parks pouring myself the dopest rum and cokes.
Yeah, Cuba Libres.
Yeah, dude. And
Cuba Libre es un mentira, though, because there is no free Cuba.
Ain't no free nothing, baby.
Yeah.
Not in our capitalist realism. There's no escape.
When I moved here 11 years ago, I remember that's what everyone would do. That they'd still go to the bars, but they would smuggle their own like things in, and then they would just be like in the bathroom drinking and then hanging out in the bar for the ambiance, which is absolutely... I don't know.
Dude,
I mean...
Yeah, dude, smuggle in like your the old school early aughts, your Four Locos.
Yeah, Four Loco. So many insane stories about Four Loco. I can't believe that was legal. I wonder what was seriously in there, too, that made people so crazy.
Yeah, you remember cocaine energy drink?
I remember that.
Genius marketing.
It was spelled out in lines.
Yeah, and then they had like a Latino marketing version of that called Perico energy drink, and
Really?
I was like, oh, that's coke. That's also cocaine.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
They're just translating it for like a Hispanic market.
exactly.
Wow.
They're like, what do you? That'd be like crack rock boner pills.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, man. So how you doing today?
Good, man. It's a beautiful day in the city. Not too muggy. Very like boiling hot, but that's okay with me.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you came over, and happy birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I was gonna say it's like what you were saying is very real. Like after the pandemic, now everyone's vaxxed up. I feel like we have like one of the highest vax rates in the country.
70% vaxxed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like 7 out of 10 people is vaxxed, and 2 out of 10 are lying and saying that they are too. You know, so I feel comfortable. And then one is just like an anti-vaxxer outwardly. You know, for my birthday party, I got a few messages, and some people were like, "Do I have to be vaxxed to come through?"
I mean, it would be nice. Just it would be considerate.
That's literally what I said. I was like, I mean, I don't really need to know your vax status, but like, if you aren't, that's on you.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's
Personal responsibility.
exactly. Well, I don't care about anybody else anymore now that I'm vaccinated.
I'm just like,
And I mean that only in the city because here everyone has access to get vaccinated.
Yep.
You know, clearly my heart goes out to people in other countries where things are still running rampant, right? Like we talk about India or Mexico or I feel like Croatia maybe. That sounds like a place where there's a lot of COVID happening.
maybe, yeah.
But here it's like, dude, everyone has been offered the vax.
Yeah.
And they're turning it down.
For free.
Yes.
Even. They're just like, all right, come through. You'll get it for free. I mean, yeah, that's what it's for, though. That's the whole thing. Like, I keep a mask on me in case we have to go in to a store or like a restaurant or something. And I put it on every time, and then people aren't wearing it in there, and they're like, you don't have to wear it if you're vaxxed. And I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm not vaxxed because I'm like wearing the mask, number one. And number two, like, yeah, this is what the whole fucking point was. Let's all get vaxxed so we can have a life again and go out. You know what I mean?
Do you know what they
wait in
should
like
do?
15-minute.
They should have like the vax should be put at these bespoke coffee shops inside of barber shops. Because then people will walk by and be like, "What's this line for?"
You're like, you get a latte and a vax.
Yeah, sick. Do I have to wait in line for it? Awesome. I definitely want it now.
Yeah,
like they have to
exactly.
make it seem scarce or like high status. You know, like almost like a Gucci vax.
Yes. Or I like your other theory on how you can get people to get the vax. By telling people that it makes their hog huge.
Yeah, this is this is a cross promo with Viagra, so we're just gonna do like this is the Blue Chew Moderna vax.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
inject it into your dick.
All they need, dude, that I would be an influencer for that. If somebody said, I would shamelessly lie or tell the truth, it's up to you to find out. I'd go on IG stories and be like, got the vax, and guess what, man? It definitely gave me like it made me extra chubby.
Yeah. Yes.
Your boy's got a triple chin down there now.
Hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly.
My dick has sleep apnea now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I honestly, if you said it though in a way where you were complaining,
Yo, my dick needs a rascal scooter. It can't walk on its own anymore.
you go to Walmart, you have to like put your dick in a rascal scooter, just your dick. Yeah, but if you were like complaining, you're like, God damn it, my dick! Like just when I thought it couldn't afford to get bigger. This
Right.
goddamn vaccine. This side effects of this vaccine are goddamn insane, and
Yeah. Oh,
This
I'm
is
so
just one of them.
inconvenienced. You don't understand how much my gas bill has gone up with the drag of my heavier dick now on my commute to work.
the drag.
It's like
I'm
it's
losing
like I've got
2
a
miles per
lawnmower
gallon.
on the back of my pickup truck. It's just too.
Oh man.
So So yeah, okay. Well, here we are, man. Thank you for listening to the intro episode of our of our podcast, the pilot, Halal Cartels. And if you don't know me, it's Gabe Pacheco, and I'm joined by my
Samir Naseem.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you for joining me for this, man. I feel like this is going to be the meeting of our minds in a new way. For anybody that doesn't know, we've been running Funhouse Comedy for like I'm going to say 7 years now.
Yeah. I think it's more than 7 even.
Yeah. Well, we've known each other on the New York comedy scene for like, what, a decade?
Yeah, close to a decade.
Like a
yeah.
hot dime.
That's right.
So this is it. And this is the thing that's finally going to break us into the industry.
Yeah, man. This is like when we talk to each other during the week on the phone or text and stuff. This is like the inside scoop.
Right, we're pulling back the curtain, and you get to see what's happening. I always loved doing shows with you because I was like, oh, this guy, we're different, but we have like some similar upbringings. One thing I remember connecting with you on right away was that we both went to like all boys Catholic schools.
Yeah, that's mental.
Yeah, right. How few? It's like very rare. I think that you run into other people that have done that in New York City, in a godless place like New York City.
Yeah, most people don't. Most people don't even know what it's like. I think it's rare for the most part across like the country, really. I think it's there's a lot of like private schools that are secular, but yeah, there's like evangelist schools and weird shit like that. I think Catholic schools are kind of a small.
Well, I think we both came out of it without being Pope, like without having Pope John Paul posters in the apartments that we live in, respectively.
Yeah.
Like, because being raised in the Catholic Church, I don't care about, like, I've lived in Greenpoint forever, and I thought that was so. Greenpoint is interesting because it's like Polish people, and I loved it. I tried to learn Polish for a minute. I wasn't very good at it, but like, what's wild is that they are hardcore Catholic, and I'd walk by the pharmacies, and they would have pictures of Pope John Paul in the pharmacy, and then right underneath it would say "No Plan B" in the apteca. Which is like,
yeah.
so, they're like, yeah, we're not going to provide you with like a rational and reasonable health care because, like, Jesus.
Yo, it's kind of wild because like it would be amazing to just set up like a Plan B cart outside of their like place.
Uh-huh.
On the street.
Well, here, we'd have the Plan B and like the shaved, like the helados.
Yes.
For summer days.
Yes. And the Plan B would be like the afterthought.
Right.
Where it was just like, also Plan B.
Yeah.
Like
whatever you
different
need.
helados.
Yeah, whatever you need, we've got you. What service do you need? You need a international calling card? You need some Plan B? Yeah.
You need both of those. You're in a weird place.
Have some mango sorbet with that.
Oh my God.
Also, I got a cooler full of tamales.
Yeah, that's tight. Like you can get a tamale, shaved ice, a Plan B, then call your family overseas and tell them that you're about to just pound that Plan B with some food, of course.
We have kosher hot dogs for you too, Poppy.
Yeah, that's sick.
Also, that works as halal food as well. So we've.
Yo, you can't trust anywhere that has all of those items under the same roof.
Yeah. Well. Totally. But I feel that's a New York thing. I think you gotta be ready to service all communities at once.
Yeah. It's super diverse, and like I do find places that'll be like, we're a pizza place that has Arabic food and like tacos.
Oh my God. When I first moved to New York, I remember that I would go, there was a Mexican food restaurant that was run by Chinese people and from China, right? So it's like hard shell tacos. And then there was one Latino in the back, I think he was Mexican, sweeping. And the whole time I just imagine the voice in his head being like, put me in, coach. Like, I know how to do this.
That's so good. Yeah. They're like, we just need you in here to give this place authenticity by sweeping the floor.
Yeah, man, it was heartbreaking to see that, and I was like, it really twisted my head around to see that for the first time.
Yeah, it's like, why not let this dude actually do the tacos and have someone else sweep the floor.
When I first moved to New York, LA Comics would show up, and the first thing they would like, this was like 18 years ago. LA Comics would say, "Yeah, New York is great, but like you can't get a decent taco here." And maybe at the time that was true, but since then there's just been like an explosion of Mexicanos coming here from Puebla and other parts of the Mexico. Just but New York now has decent tacos everywhere.
Yeah, I mean the
So,
trucks.
Yeah,
The trucks are banging.
yeah.
The one on 7th is like off the hook.
Everyone's eating birria tacos now.
It's like so popular.
I feel like that just blew up recently.
Yeah.
That's like
It did.
The chia seed or the kombucha of 2021 is birria tacos in New York City.
It's actually like white celebrity chefs are like talking about birria too. So like it's trickling down rather than the opposite way.
Yeah, yeah. Mexicans here before were like, "What is a birria taco?" And they're like, "It's like a wet taco."
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Isn't it like a shawarma? Like they like cook it slowly on a spit.
Yeah, pero es muy jugoso. It's so juicy.
Yeah.
And there's a place right by Kellogg's Diner in Williamsburg where they've got the birria cart and people waiting in line. And this is like the one time I get it. I get it because it's like good. It's not like waiting in line for a fucking latte on your way to work. It's dinner. So, but that, I co-sign that birria taco truck.
Hell yeah.
This is SpawnCon.
Yeah. They're paying us. They're paying us in tacos.
Yeah, and like little paper cups of consommé.
Right.
To dip
Do they
my
serve it
taco.
with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so it's like a French dip, but a taco.
Exactly. It's a French dip goat barbecue taco.
It's tight. Goat has always bugged me out, honestly.
You don't mess with goats?
Well, like Indian people eat the hell out of it, and my mom like loves it. And every time she makes it, she's like, "It's not like the last time." It's like, not that she's saying it was bad last time, but like I complain, and she tries to convince me to eat it. But
Yeah, I think goat
Something
is
about it.
like eating mushrooms, where every time you do it, it's a different experience.
nice.
Goat doesn't have the same standardized flavor and taste that maybe when you're cooking it yourself, that like chicken does.
Right.
Like chicken's either good or it's off. With goat, it's like, I don't know what happened this time.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it has a weird smell to it sometimes.
I'm a fan though. I get down with that. I like a gamier meat.
Yeah. That's a good description. It's pretty gamey. Yeah.
I had a friend who raised goats, and he said that it really mattered, the milk at least, if you're going to like milk the goats, it really mattered what type of grass they were eating. So he had like a meadow. This was in upstate New York, and he had a little meadow, and he would plant different types of greenery, so like alfalfas and different sprouts and clovers and whatnot, to give the goat milk its own, literally a goat milk sommelier.
That's another thing I wouldn't want.
He's like
Goat milk.
on the nose, tennis balls and sprouts.
Yeah, tennis balls. It's like, this one must have eaten alfalfa because it smells like piss, like actual piss. The milk.
So I'd love to come over to your place and have your mom cook some goat.
Yeah, it's. I gotta be honest with you, it's really good when she does, but there's just sometimes I've had it elsewhere where I'm just not a fan. But
So we're coming back out of this. We're starting to do shows again. How are you feeling about the scene? What's happening in New York?
it's actually really interesting. Like, there's a shit ton of shows springing up now. There's a massive rush for people to get in at venues. I bet you it's never been a better time to be a venue right now because everyone's hitting them up, like busting down the doors, like, "Hey, we want to do stuff here." And there's a demand for people to see stuff. So, like up until this week, you weren't allowed to have full capacity of any type. And I think they announced that you can like do things business as usual from before. So like you can do like full capacity events, which is changed the game now.
Yeah.
Because now it is that quote unquote hot vax summer that everyone was talking about. Remember when everyone started declaring it hot vax summer? You'd be like, "Oh, fuck yeah, let's go." And then you'd go out and people would be like, your mask, put your mask on. And then like you'd go into a place, there'd be like plastic barriers everywhere. And you'd be like, "Oh, okay." And they'd be like, "Yeah, we're only allowed to have 3 people in here at a time." Like, What the fuck are you doing? And you're like, I thought it was hot vax summer.
Yeah. Oh, you mean tentatively lukewarm vax summer?
Yeah.
I'm gonna gingerly step into this pool using the stairs. I'm definitely not gonna dive in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now I think it's just about to explode. And there were just a bunch of promoters that popped up during the pandemic that just started like doing underground shows essentially. And
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm all for it. I went to a show at the Brooklyn Monarch a couple days ago, and the space just looked amazing. You know, it looked like an old warehouse, and then the show was in a backyard with a garden. There was like a garden back there, and then graffiti on all the walls behind the stage, and it just made me feel like if of yeah, I guess clubs are okay, but the thing about stand up is it can happen anywhere. And I appreciate that right now. So big ups to all the independent producers. Keep putting on shows in laundromats, free clinics.
free clinics.
Yeah, yeah. Abandoned public libraries.
Is that another thing?
It is now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Community gardens, wherever you want, man. Just
Yeah,
put on
people
shows
are.
anywhere.
I went to the Brooklyn Monarch last week too.
Oh, yeah?
But it was like an indoor show, but it was still pretty crazy.
Nice.
The size of that place. Mm-hmm. That's in like that forgotten land in East Williamsburg where like it's just industrial and people are just repurposing industrial buildings.
Yeah, I think they're actually gonna stop doing shows there, unfortunately, by the time this comes out. But I think there's gonna be a burgeoning new rave scene in New York. You know, a lot of these big empty spaces, plus the vaxxed crowds, means there's gonna be some decadent hedonistic celebrations.
Hell yeah.
Until the next variant shows up from the UK or India.
That Indian variant though, man. Like if that comes to this city, it's gonna be like a zombie movie.
Well, my question is, how can that be stopped?
It absolutely can't be. Yeah.
I mean, it could be stopped if we had like authoritarian governments, but there's just like the free flow of people everywhere.
Right.
I'm going to Puerto Rico next week.
That's tight.
Can't wait. Next episode, maybe I'll have a field report for you on my experience there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How long are you gonna be there for?
I'm going to be there for 5 days. I just got my Vax card laminated.
Yeah.
And I took photos of it as well. So, if I lose it, I'll still have the photos on my cloud.
Yeah.
But I can't believe I got Vax like a month ago, and I just laminated the card.
Yeah, I laminated mine. I couldn't ever foresee losing it. It's such a hassle if you lose it. You have to go through like some weird process to get it back. Mm-hmm. I mean, get another copy of it.
Yeah, when I got vaccinated, it felt real 28 weeks later, because I went to the Javits Center and there were just military everywhere. And it felt like one of those like winning the hearts and minds campaigns because, I'm not a huge advocate for our foreign policy or the armed services in general. But that doesn't mean I don't like the people who, for no other opportunities being available, are in the Army.
Yeah.
So I show up at the Javits Center, and it's just like a bunch of young, fucking funny, like happy BIPOCs.
Yeah.
Black, brown, Latino, Latina. Just everyone's just out there joking in their greens.
Yeah.
And jabbing us with the vax. So I was like, I hate what you guys do everywhere else, but thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? It sucks what you're doing all over the world, but
Yeah.
At least you're not cops in America.
Yeah, I mean, Also, I'm like, well, you are clearly not the drone pilots that are blowing up the weddings all over the Middle East. So
It's this mechanized warfare shit, by the way, the drone stuff. I love how it's like finding its way into our streets too, via like the police having the robot dogs and stuff. And they're gonna start using drones too, that are just gonna be flying around and like capturing everyone's face. Like all of a sudden, I like almost feel like it would be cool to wear masks again.
yes, the masks. I'm okay. I'm okay with wearing masks on the subway forever now.
Yep.
B, I never. I'm so grateful that I didn't get sick with like the flu or a cold or anything for like the last 15 months, and I think part of that is just a new acknowledgement of hygiene. Mm-hmm. Like it makes me think about how dirty everyone was before this, how little people understood germ theory, and how we all went to work sick.
All the time.
which is like just a symptom, a perversion of human nature due to capitalism. It's like,
100%. They want you to go in sick,
yeah,
and then they want to like lambaste you for having come in sick.
right.
So like it's a song and dance where you have to go in and you have to be like sneezing and coughing and like struggling and like sweating with a fever, and then they go like, "What are you doing in here? You're sick. You're gonna get everyone else sick."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, if I called in, you would just like flip out and like hit HR up about me not coming in today."
Yeah, you only get 5 sick days a year, and yeah, it's a catch-22. Something you brought up earlier that's interesting to me is like the idea of drones with facial recognition software, and I think like the internet, before the internet was private or like run by Zuckerberg and Bezos and these other dudes, Bill Gates, it was DARPA, so it was like a government-run institution, And then but if the government had tried to make facial recognition software, we would have all been up in arms and freaked out. So then, what the government, it feels like it does, is it just outsources tech to private entrepreneurs, and then they make dumbass products like Snapchat or a feature on your phone that lets you put dog ears on yourself.
Yes.
And then they harvest that data and then sell it right back to the DoD.
Right. And they get people to opt in by being like, "Do you want to see what you look like when you're old? Because this thing will show you."
So that is, I feel like within our system, there is no difference between the private and the public. The private, we fetishize these entrepreneurs, but they're really just avatars or faces for control. Control is still the government that's like, hey, if you'll give your info to Zuckerberg, and so we'll just let him exist, and then he'll give it right back to us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. So, like, how are we different from the Chinese government?
We're
who
not.
enables like TikTok.
Yeah.
And then goes like, "All right, TikTok, like get embedded in everyone's phone, get every metric and piece of data that you can from them, so that we could piece it together and triangulate like absolute surveillance at all times on everyone's phone."
Yeah, the only difference between us and the Chinese is that they provide housing.
Yeah, but they also,
Also, the Uyghurs is a big problem.
yeah, that's the whole thing about them though. They're so ruthless. They love to just be. You're like, "Yo, what are you doing with this whole Uyghur situation? This is a genocide." And then they go like, "What are you talking about? They want this to happen to them." They love this. They signed up for it. You're like, what? No one would sign up for that. No, they did. Anyways, moving on.
So that's happening in China, and definitely shout outs to the few independent journalists that bring it up and talk about it. I'm sure they can point. They pointed us, and they're like, "You still have those kids in cages?" And it's like, "Oh, you mean wearing the astronaut blankets? Yeah, we do." What else do we have? I think the largest incarcerated population in the world.
Dude,
per
didn't
capita.
they actually reverse it when some senators were like, "Hey, you need to chill with this like Uyghur genocide," and they were like, "Oh, like you guys chilled on the Native American genocide?"
Yeah.
I think they literally acknowledged the Native American genocide and use it as like which is very psychotic, you know? It's
Yeah.
like any government that's like killing people and doing like just carrying out a genocide, then go like, "But other people have done it, so you guys don't have a leg to stand on." It's like,
I mean, we could stop. It would be great if people stopped doing it. I just watched the documentary "Exterminate All the Brutes," which is a 4-part series,
so good.
and it's interesting because like they talk about the Third Reich and these ideologies that were coming. The National Socialism, right? So Hitler's ideas. This is a great start for our first podcast. So Hitler, but like the German eugenicists borrowed a bunch of ideas from American eugenicists. So those ideas started here, not in Germany.
Yeah.
And Henry Ford was writing all these anti-Semitic tracts. And the Germans are like, man, we want to industrialize, like just how how so many Americans are like brainwashed and worship like Elon Musk or they like grind culture makes us worship these like clubhouse boys.
Yeah.
So the equivalent to the clubhouse entrepreneurs today was Henry Ford back in the day. And all of these Germans aspiring to make their empire better are like looking to Henry Ford's and being like, yo, this guy's got it. What else? Let's pick his brain. What else does he think? And Henry Ford's like, also, we need to exterminate the Jews. And then so those are American ideas.
Yeah.
And then also the Germans were looking their idea of Lebensraum to wipe out large swaths of Slavic people and Russians was taken from the idea of like the U.S. exterminating Native Americans and taking over all like basically we Lebensraumed our nation Lebensraumed the entire continent of North America.
Yep. Through Manifest Destiny.
Yes.
Like, that's what they called it. They were like, oh, we just need to... There was this, like, insanely false narrative, too, that, like, this country was sparsely populated. That's not true. Like, there were tribes every which way.
Dude, Chickasaws, Sioux, Seminole, Cherokee, and those are like the big names, but there were like hundreds of
Thousands even.
independent indigenous nations.
Yeah. That existed like in every like climate too, like the swamp, the fucking like desert, like they're everywhere.
Yeah, Apaches, Comanches, Shoshone, all
Yeah.
these different tribes, and and I just was researching the Cherokee, and they were one of the five what was considered civilized tribes. And the Cherokee adopted Christianity. They adopted European technological innovations, agriculture. They wore the same clothes. They were like living. They were basically just like slightly darker European mannered people. And Andrew Jackson, that dude was a real estate speculator as well as a plantation owner when he became president. So his whole crew was just a bunch of real estate dudes. And they were like, all right, how do we capitalize on all this land in Georgia? I get it. Let's just get rid of the Cherokee Nation, which had a constitution just like the U.S., and move these people out west to Oklahoma. So when we think about the Trail of Tears, it was just like a shady real estate deal.
Yeah, Andrew Jackson was the worst.
Gentrification meaning genocide.
Yeah. And like that was his whole plan. So then they took the land and then they started parsing it out, like making money off of it.
Right. And it's just interesting that we'll study the Trail of Tears in U.S. history books, and it seems like a military action to move to relocate like belligerent tribes, but it was more like some sort of eminent domain thing happening in a city where you're moving people out of neighborhoods to build something else, to build like a Barclay Center.
Yeah, to build what?
A Barclay Center.
Oh, yeah, totally. They're like, sorry, guys, your houses are being erased here.
Yeah. And like the image of the Cherokee or Native Americans is sort of like people without, not wearing clothes or wearing like leather chaps and feathers. And it's like, nah, man, the Cherokee were rocking like the latest fashions of whatever the 1820s were.
Wow. Yeah, and like there's also just this whole thing of like the conforming, right? Conforming, playing by their rules, doing all the shit that they like require of you in order to be labeled as non-hostile, and then losing in the end.
Right.
Like you lose your culture, your identity, and everything, and they never fucking embrace you.
And then you get moved.
Yeah, you get moved. So that's like insult to injury. You lose everything.
I mean, and this is something a principle to think about. It just in your life in general. It's like, if I compromise myself or my integrity, and then I fail, then I've like died twice, because the first time was like I killed myself.
Yes.
In terms of like suiciding my real identity to hope for acceptance, and then to fail again, and then to still get rejected.
And you're like a fucking timid shadow of the person that you really were, and you're still just not getting any love.
Yeah. So I guess the lesson with the Cherokees is, even if you tried to assimilate, they weren't going to have it.
Yeah, and that happens to this very day, right? Like in society, they see various like minorities, right? personalities as threatening. Like if you're not constantly like apologetic for your existence or whatever, you're a threat. Like if you're like a pissed off black woman trope kind of
Right.
thing, they're like classic salty black lady. It's like okay, then nobody wants to explore why. Like someone might be pissed off, dude. You know,
Right.
they love to like characterize and stereotype and shit. And then like the same thing exists with like Indian people, for example. They always have to be like the wacky, like dickless best friend who, you know what I mean, just has like dickless might not be the best way to say it.
They can't have a triple chin dick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, no offense to people without a dick or something like that.
Sure.
That's not like you know what I mean? Like, you just can't come in with like any type of aggressive energy. You can't come in with like any type of strong POV because you're labeled as like a threat or like offensive or something like that. You have to like dance for mastery. You know what I mean? You have to take the crumbs that you get. Like, you have to be thankful for those crumbs too, and like you have to be okay with people just creating your narrative and you just executing and acting it out. You know what I mean? In a weird way.
Yeah, yeah. So assimilation,
Yeah, assimilation.
or being defanging yourself
No,
to
100%.
be to make everyone around you comfortable. The dominant culture.
Right.
But I think part of why I wanted to do this podcast was to center ourselves as whatever this is, the two of us, is in this room the dominant culture,
Right.
and everything outside is fucking weird.
Right. We're not weird.
They're weird. Exactly.
It's amazing.
So yeah, man, that is the mission statement behind Halal Cartels.
Yeah, and I feel like you learn something every episode.
You're gonna learn something every episode.
This Andrew
man.
Jackson shit, I didn't really know it. Like, of course, I know the Trail of Tears, but I didn't realize that this fucking dickhead was like making so much money off the back end. But of course he was.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's we think about Donald Trump most recently, and we say, what about the emoluments clause? What about how is he profiting off of being president? He's got all the Secret Service agents staying at Mar-a-Lago, and he's racking up all these bills, and they're using all of his hotels. Well, Andrew Jackson was doing the same thing, and in making the South, he was a plantation owner, and he took all of these Native American lands, and he pushed all of these nations out further west and into Oklahoma, and then Georgia and Alabama. Those areas were depopulated of Native Americans to help build more cotton plantations.
Wow.
So even when we think about the Civil War, right, and these Confederates, they're hearkening back to this sort of in their minds an immortal or like eternal slave society down south. That slave society that was built was like from 1820 to like 1865. So it really wasn't even that long. And yet there are people waving these Confederate flags talking about tradition or whatever. And they're literally talking about a 40 to 50 year system of brutality that they think was somehow, does that make sense? Like somehow some long Reich that they had.
Right. Like they're talking about themselves as though they were like this like 1,000-year dynasty or something.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Man.
there's TV shows like The Simpsons is longer than your fucking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, why are you clinging to that so hard?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's 100% rooted in like the desperation to be like proudly racist. You know, they're like, how come we can't be proudly racist anymore without like it causing problems for us?
Yeah.
There is places in like the world where people are proudly racist and like it doesn't affect them one bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well,
Like,
dude,
people are
it's
just
everywhere.
like, yeah.
It's everywhere, and it's not. I always wonder. I always think of racism as just a form of control, or like another way to control people to continue to extract capital. Okay, so I was watching Henry Skip Gates's Black in Latin America documentary series, and they were talking about Cuba, life in Cuba. So after Castro took over, and then became communist after taking over. So he didn't start that way,
Yeah.
but it was kind of forced into that box. You can listen to Blowback, which is a great podcast on that. He's forced into this box to like align himself with the Soviet Union. He tried to eradicate racism, which was endemic in Cuba because like all of the descendants from Africa were working in the fields, and as he's integrating society, the uh, the refugees who came to the U.S. predominantly lighter skinned,
Right.
white Cubans. Okay, so they're here and they're making money. And then once the economy collapses in Cuba after the Soviet Union falls, that's the first like 30% of their GDP is like knocked out, which is just devastating. Then the second thing is Donald Trump. He like continued to tighten the embargoes. So even though Cuba was equal and everyone was getting like the same amount of money, their remittances coming from the United States were heavily going to white Cubans. So it's like all the white Cubans in Cuba were getting extra, a little extra cream in their coffee, a little extra. It's like they all had a little bit of a trust fund. They do have that. And that is creating racial tension. So it's like the tension is caused by unequal distribution of resources,
Right.
not based on like you're born different and I'm born different and we got to fight.
Right. Like it wasn't even about that. It becomes like how much you get versus how much I get in a society where people are all supposed to be able to receive according to their need.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah, I've always wondered what the dynamic in like kind of race relations were like in a place like Cuba, considering like there are a lot of Afro-Cuban people and like I've met some too, and then I know like white Cubans and stuff. But whenever I like meet people from Latin America, it's just like in India, like the lighter skin you are, like the more likely you are to come from a wealthier class, just because of colonialism.
Yeah.
And
That's just conquistador shit.
yeah, conquistador shit. Like I'll meet like white Venezuelans, I'll meet like white Colombians and stuff, and it's a completely different story than the ones that look like more native.
Well, it's like here, my family's from Mexico, and I tell people that here, and they're like, for a while when I started doing comedy, everybody just thought I was Jewish. They thought I was like another Jewish comedian. And here, yeah, I don't look like the Mexican migrants who come here because the Mexican migrants coming here are predominantly like indigenous looking folk who are being, for a variety of reasons, NAFTA, I don't know, like being kicked off of their farmland and then having to leave cities in desperation are here. Whereas when I go to Mexico and visit, nobody bats an eyelash when I start speaking Spanish. They're just like, oh, yeah, you're Mexican.
Right.
Because light skinned ones most of the time, stay there.
Yeah, because they have the resources.
Well, yeah, why would they leave?
Yeah, exactly. Like Louis C.K. is Mexican.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that.
He was born there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. Yo, Mexico. Here's a fun story for you, real quick, and because I love just anecdotes, history anecdotes. So like the Irish, who I love, they're like getting oppressed by England back in the day, like 1840s, 1830s,
Until now.
until now. Yeah, they're here.
Continuing to be
Great. They got a great tech industry in Ireland right now, but they were coming here, and you've seen like what's the movie Gangs of New York?
Yeah.
So in Gangs of New York, there's the image of them getting off the boats and immediately getting Union uniforms and guns. And so Irish immigrants were used as cannon fodder all the time in the U.S. for our wars of empire. During the Mexican-American War, which was like right before the Civil War, 1840s roughly, all of these Irish immigrants are being sent to go and fight in like what is it? Arizona, California, Utah, Colorado, and they are like sent on these search and destroy missions to just like wipe out Mexican villages. But the thing is the Irish were Catholic. And they hated Protestants, and all of the officers were Protestant Americans, U.S. dudes, being like, "Yo, kill all these like Mexicans." And at one point, all these Irish immigrants were like, "They're kind of more like us than you." So they just fragged their leaders and seceded and became mercenaries fighting for Mexico against the U.S.
That's amazing.
And they're called the San Patricio Brigades.
That's
So,
amazing.
the St. Patrick's Brigades.
Yeah, I had no idea.
So these statues in Mexico to the Irish who decided, fuck the U.S. and like fought for Mexico.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So you know what I'm all about? I'm all about solidarity between formerly colonized peoples.
Same. And I feel like that is something that we all have in common, aside from like small similarities, like our parents all gave us a good beating with a sandal now and again.
Yeah, that is, my parents were really nice to me, which is why
Yeah, it's tight. You're like, I'm well adjusted.
I'm totally well adjusted, everybody. I have a very secure attachment style. But yeah, this was it, man. This is the first episode of Halal Cartels. I'm Gabe Pacheco, and you can find me at GabePac1 on Instagram. And also follow the Funhouse IG, Funhouse Comedy Instagram, for when we start doing live shows again.
Yeah, and I'm Samir. You can follow me at Sameermon, Sameermon, on Instagram and Twitter. And follow Funhouse for sure, because we're about to start the show back up. So
yeah. If you like what you're hearing, shoot us some messages, DM us on Instagram, and we're just gonna keep moving with this new project, Halal Cartels. All right, peace. We love you.
peace.